Howdy, and welcome to another episode of Doing More with Less Effort. Today we're going to learn how to fine-tune models with ChatGPT. We're going to use the ChatGPT Fine Tuning NPM package because apparently there's a package for everything these days. Actually, I created the package. So if you're on GitHub, just be a prince and drop a star. And to do it, we're going to use Node and TypeScript. So stick around if you want to learn what fine tuning is all about. All right, so what is fine tuning? Basically, it's just a way to make a pre-trained base model like ChatGPT a lot more specialized based on your needs and will deliver more predictable results. In technical terms, fine-tuning adjusts the weights of a model based on some additional examples that you provide. This can be a very tedious process because it's often done manually, but with the ChatGPT fine-tuning NPM package, this process becomes a lot more manageable. All right, let's jump into an example. Say we need ChatGPT to give us the muscles worked by various exercises. Let's say we give it incline bench press. It might reply with chest, right? But unlike me, if you actually work out and get results, you will know that it actually targets the upper chest along with several other muscles. We need precision, folks, because close enough only works in anesthesia. And with that said, let's jump into some code. All right, first step, we're gonna create a new project. So let's just run npm init, and we're gonna hope it doesn't start asking existential questions. We can just skip through this, and there we go. We now have a new npm project. Next, let's add the ChatGPT fine-tuning package. And there we go. Now we have ChatGPT fine-tuning added to our project. All right, next up, let's add TypeScript. And we're gonna save it as a dev dependency. And then let's initiate TypeScript. And that's going to create our new tsconfig.json file. Let's open up our tsconfig.json file, give it a look, and let's put our outputs into this out directory. And we're going to add a new one. It's going to be called dist, and that should be good to go. Now let's create a new TypeScript file, and we're going to call it main. There we go. And now let's just try importing our ChatGPT fine-tuning. Let's try to compile it, see if that works. Sure enough, it does. Perfect. And we can go from here. Next up, let's create a list of exercises that we can use. And let's start with decline, bench press, push-ups, pull-ups, squat, Romanian deadlift, and incline bench press. All right, and next we're going to define a list of valid muscles that we can check against. So we're going to do chest, upper chest, lower chest, quads, glutes, lats, biceps, hamstring, forearms, calves, traps, front delts, side delts, and rear delts. So these are the list of valid muscles that we expect ChatGPT to return. Next, let's write the instructions for ChatGPT. So we're going to say your task is to provide the muscles worked by the given exercises using only the valid muscles. Respond with a JavaScript array. And actually, we're going to make it a function, and it's going to take valid muscles, and it's going to be an array of strings, and it's going to return the instructions, and then we're going to include the valid muscles like this, valid muscles, and boom. Now let's write our main function. So we're going to call it get muscles for exercise, and it's going to be an async function, and then we're going to get our exercises, and then we're going to iterate over our exercises. And then we're going to get our next exercise, and then we're going to add some sort of rate limiting. And so for that, we're just going to use a simple promise, and then we're going to do a timeout, which we're going to resolve after. Let's add some randomness to it, and then we'll do 1 second. And then let's just add some console log. And now for the fun part. And now before we actually make the request to ChatGPT, we need to set up our GPT client. Quick pause. If you're liking this video, please drop a like for the YouTube algorithm, and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get back to the video. So quickly, let's jump into the documentation. We've already installed the package. We're going to need an out file, that we specify, and then our system message, which is just going to be our instructions that we've already added. And finally, we're going to need a GPT API key. All right, I've gone ahead and created our ChatGPT Fine Tuning client. It's going to take our API key. This is what the completion params look like. I'm sending it to the model GPT 3.5. I chose a lower temperature given this is sort of more factual information. And then our system message is going to be just the GPT instructions that we wrote. And then finetuning.jsonl is going to be our output. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to go ahead and create what we're going to call our tuner. And then we're going to import our tuner type from the package like so. And then this tuner essentially is what we're going to use to accept or deny the request based off of whether it matches our valid exercise or not. We're going to set the tuner to our gpt.send message. And then here we're going to basically say, here's the next exercise. And then we are going to clean the text because it's going to come in with some characters that we might not necessarily want. And so we're going to do it like this: cleaned response text, tuner.response.text. And then we're going to replace all of those characters that we don't want. So new lines and the such. For that, we're going to use some regex magic, and then we're going to replace it with an empty string. And then let's go ahead and console log that cleaned response text. And then finally, we're going to set the muscle array to that response. However, it's going to come in as a string, so we want to actually parse it into an object using json.parse, and then we're going to put in the clean response text here. And there we go. So now let's go ahead and console.log that muscle array and give it a whirl. I just realized I did not even declare the muscle array, so let's go ahead and do that like so. Okay, let's go ahead and try to compile this and run it. Okay, so we got an error. Let's see. It's looking like, oh, it probably doesn't like the single quote. So let's go ahead and modify our instructions. We're just going to scroll over here, and then let's say use double quotes. Let's see if that fixes it. So we have to recompile and then run it again. Cool. So it looks like it's working, and it did all of them. Perfect. Now I'm looking at the output here, and I'm seeing that for decline bench press, we're actually missing some of the muscles that are actually targeted by that exercise. I know that it actually targets also the front delts and the triceps, both of which are missing from the array here. So what we're gonna do is we're going to actually reject any exercise that contains less than 3 muscles in the array. Now in practicality, that's not necessarily gonna be accurate, given that there are some exercises that are sort of more isolation exercises, and they might target less than that. But for the purposes of the demonstration, that's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and check the length of the array. And if it's less than 3, we're going to use a special function on our tuner. So tuner contains both approve and reject. So if we approve the response, that means that it's a good response, right? So if we reject it, then we're saying this is not good enough, and we want to add it as an example into our fine tuning. Otherwise, we're going to approve. Okay, so now the final step is to actually fix the incorrect response so that when we upload the training data, OpenAI knows exactly how to adjust the weights. And to do that, we're going to use tuner again, and then we're going to call fix. And this fix function is going to take 2 arguments. The first is the user text. This is our response to the bad reply. And then the second argument is the assistant text, which would be the correct reply. So here we would say something like, you did not include all the targeted muscles. And then the assistant text is going to vary per exercise. So we will do this manually, and we will just put response.text like this. Now all we have to do is run it. So we can see that we rejected the first one, we approved the second one, we rejected the third one, and so on. And now we have a fine-tuning.jsonl file And here what we see is each row is a conversation. This is what OpenAI uses to fine tune the models. All right, so we see that the first message is the system role message. This is just going to be the instructions. We can skip over that. Then the next message is going to be our user role, which is the actual request for the next exercise. Next up, we have our reply from the assistant. This is going to be our incorrect response. So here we see that we only have 2 muscles and a weight automatically assigned, which is 0. So that's what our tuner reject is actually doing. And finally, when we fix it, we see that we're adding this follow-up message where we're saying you did not include all the targeted muscles. And finally, we have the correct response from ChatGPT, which has a weight of 1. Let me go ahead and word wrap this. We can see that, of course, this is not the actual correct response. So let's go ahead and fix it manually in here. So we're going to add a couple more muscles. We're going to add triceps. And finally, we're going to add front delts. And you would do the same thing for all of the muscles that were incorrect. And that is it for this video. In the next one, we're going to take our JSONL file and upload it to OpenAI. So stick around, drop a like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.